Court sitting in Port Harcourt has dismissed the suit seeking to declare vacant the seats of the 25 lawmakers who defected from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressives Congress (APC. The judgment presided over by Justice Okolugbo held that the lawmakers are still members of the People's Democratic Party after the claimants failed to provide proof as required by law that the defendants are members of the All Progressives Congress. Tonight, as we take a look at this recent developments, let's remind you that on the 30th of May 2024, a River State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt declared the seat of the 25 lawmakers vacant, pending the determination of a suit before it. But with this new development, what happens next? And let's speak with Ken Okolugbo, former commissioner in Delta State. He's also a political affairs analyst. So, Okolugbo, good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's good to see you again.
It's my pleasure.
Right.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. So what do you make of this recent court judgment? Justice Gazam has said that the legislators remain members of the party, of the PDP, after the claimants failed to substantiate their claims that the lawmakers had officially joined the APC. What do you make of the decision of the court?
Yeah, it depends on the perspective you want to look at it. There are two very key issues here. Justice C.N. Wali had given an interlocutory order for the seats to remain vacant pending determination of his own suit. Don't forget that there was already a judgment from Justice Kayode Omotosho of the Federal High Court, which clearly recognized the newly-led members of the House of Assembly, and also said in that judgment that the governor should present the budget to the House of Assembly and that the governor should not interfere with the workings of the House of Assembly. Now, this latest judgment from Justice Bassam, there are two issues you must look at. First, Mr. Amadi and the two others who went to court. Some will question their local standard, maybe not being members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. How then do they have asked for the members' seats to be declared vacant? But a judgment now, not an interlocutory order, is in the realm, has been given now. And that's literally should supersede an interlocutory order, saying that one, these people never defected from the PDP. The PDP was said to have filed papers before the court, claiming that they had not left. They were not members of the APC. They were still members of the PDP. They were in their register and so on and so forth. Now, what you must ask yourself is, where do we go from here in terms of judicial interpretation? Because really, you cannot, for you to actually leave a party, in all honesty, you must be able to write a letter to your ward chairman. Your ward chairman must acknowledge that he has gotten that letter, must notify the state's working committee. The state working committee must also, in this case, these are just not ordinary members, but they are members of the House of Assembly, inform the National Working Committee. So if maybe the National Legal Advisor, who was also a party to the suit, has filed papers to say these are my members, they have not defected, you leave the judge with no other option but to have given the judgment he did give. And if the Attorney General did not also come to challenge the jurisdiction of the court, from what he was saying in his press conference, it also bothers me because that shows that Ubara is not being advised properly. Because he has said that no state high court has jurisdiction. So if he also says that no state high court has jurisdiction, it therefore also follows that Justice C.N. Wali has no jurisdiction in declaring the seats of the lawmakers vacant, because he has said that it is only a federal high court. But the Attorney General has not taken judicial notice of Justice Kayode Omotosho's judgment, which is still subsisting as we speak. It has not been vacated by any court of appeal. So it's like a river house of commotion as you see it, as it stands, because the Attorney General is not the one to interpret the judgment. He's the one to maybe defend the governor and defend the interest of the state and not to interpret the judgment that has been delivered. So what I really clearly see in this situation here in Rivers now, it's more of a political situation. That's the only way they can actually get out of this quagmire. All the appeal courts must have to rein in at this point in time to stop this, I call it forum shopping, getting courts of coordinate jurisdiction to give conflicting either by ex parte or by judgments in this crisis.
All right, just to corroborate your point, I mean, if the Attorney General is also highlighting the issue of jurisdiction in this matter, do you think that perhaps we need a judicial interpretation of what exactly constitutes crisis in a political party? Must this crisis trickle down from the top?
Well, it has gone beyond what constitutes the crisis. In Abegunde's case, it was very clear that the Supreme Court said the crisis must be at the national headquarters of that political party. But then don't forget that there is a provisor, which is Section 109, subsection 1G. To give effect to that, you must have the speaker, you must present evidences to the speaker, and the speaker must declare the seat vacant. Now, the case before Justice Omotosho is that Edisile here was never the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, and that Edisile here had been suspended on the 31st of October 2023 by a properly constituted session of the Rivers State House of Assembly. So there was no way he could come from suspension to become the Speaker, how much more declare the seats of the lawmakers vacant as at that material point in time when they said they had joined the APC on national television. And so if there was no judicial notice before Justice Kayode Omotosho stating that these lawmakers had defected and that judgment has been given, I have said it not once, not twice, that the governor is playing with that judgment. That judgment is eventually going to come to haunt him. He should either appeal that judgment or stop maybe this forum shopping that has led us to this situation we find in Rivers State. Rivers State is a very critical state in Nigeria, and anything that happens to Rivers State can affect the whole of Niger Delta. And you all know that the Niger Delta, which is where I also come from, is the highest producer of the nation's wealth. And so the fact of the matter is, it is not a case of who has left what party and who has not left what party. There are there are two judgments now, and one interlocutory order. So which one will the Nigerian police obey, or which one will the Rivers State government obey at this material point in time? They will, of course, want to stick with the one from Justice C.N. Wali. But the Attorney General is also not being fair. If he says that the High Court is robbed of jurisdiction, and he's also sticking with the judgment of Justice C.N. Wali, why not go ahead and appeal the judgment of Justice Kayode Omotosho, which is a federal High Court, which is not robbed of jurisdiction, which has given a judgment recognizing Amewule and the 26 others as the properly constituted Rivers State House of Assembly. This is what he's supposed to be doing, the Attorney General, and not, resorting to self-help, as I see it, because it is based on Justice C.N. Wali's order that he became the Attorney General. If Justice C.N. Wali did not give that order, there will not have been a Victor Jumbo, who is presently the factional speaker, who declared the present Attorney General to become the Commissioner and Attorney General of Rivers State.
All right, so Okolugbo, talking about this conflicting orders and the kind of confusion this will cause in the next few days, is this? Do you think this is a conundrum that the judiciary must see an end to?
I think the judiciary, just like what has happened in Kano, I think the Chief Justice of Nigeria should at this point in time summon the Chief Judge of Rivers State, because when you assign their court cases, you can't continue to assign court cases that can set the state ablaze. Why not allow for the appeal court? Why not be patient to allow for the appeal court to either give their judgment on the judgment of Justice Kayode Omotosho, which I think is the only subsisting judgment before today's ruling, and then they will not walk way forward. This idea of resorting to self-help, don't forget that Justice Danagogo had already also recognized before Ehie resigned from the State House of Assembly. This is like putting Nigeria in a very, how would the international community view Nigeria, especially Rivers State, that we have a lot of IOCs based in that area of Nigeria, how will they attract foreign direct investment when they see Rivers State as a place that is unsettled, where anything goes? I think the judiciary should practically put their house in order so that Nigerians will not have to shame them at this material point in time.
But what impact do you think this will have on governance in Rivers State in the next few days?
Well, certainly Governor Fubara will be distracted. He might say he's not distracted, but that's not true. We are all human. He's fighting a battle, but he also can nip this in the bud. When you allow those who fan the embers of discord to continue to fester on what I call military-industrial complex, those are benefit from one pestilence. When you continue to allow them fester, continue to allow them give you stories that will continue to prop you up, I think the crisis in Rivers State solely lies on Governor Fubara and Minister Wike. If they both can come together, then they can find a political solution to this problem. They must take the interest of the Rivers people paramount more than their own personal interest at this material point in time. Of course, Minister Wike is pained. He feels betrayed by Governor Fubara, who he thought was going to be someone who would continue on his policies, will be loyal, and he has seen that he has not only continued on his policies, but seemed to have pulled the rug off his feet. And all those who are loyal to him are losing their jobs, so to say. Governor Fubara is also fighting the battle of his life. He believes that, look, if I give these people room, they will impeach me. So it's either I go for them, or I will not survive for the next 3 years as the governor of Rivers State. But I think a lot depends on Governor Fubara because he's the chief executive officer at this material point in time. If he truly embraces peace, he might not have gone against the agreement he reached with the president. In my perspective as an analyst and not looking at it with sentiment, he could easily have still gone up with that agreement and proven to others that it was now the other side that were the aggressors and he was not the aggressors. But again, the Rivers State House of Assembly kept making laws that were overriding the governor and making things very difficult for the governor in terms of governance. And don't also forget that one of the resolutions of the agreement with the president was that he was going to carry out local government elections, which of course he thought if he carried it out would have been more like political suicide. So in all this, whether you like it or not, it is just a political solution that can bring an end to this crisis. Right. Or we should allow the appeal court to take charge, because tomorrow you can get the judgment from another court of community jurisdiction, because the Amewule-led house now have 2 judgments, one from Justice Kayode Omotosho, one from this one that they were not even parties. It was more like taken to court by some Mr. Amari, I don't know who he is, and 2 others. And the one now before Justice C.N. Wali, which has not even gone on for determination. All
right, Sir Okolugbo. Another report from Rivers State in the last 24 hours is that the reconstruction of Rivers Assembly Auditorium will gulp 19.5 billion naira. This is happening at a time state governors are saying they cannot pay 60,000 naira minimum wage. Some are wondering why demolish and then waste taxpayers' money to reconstruct. What's your thought on this?
I think it's really sad. When I saw the gross amounts, that is 20 billion as far as I'm concerned. When you say 19 points, it's already 20 billion by the time you embrace variation. And the Rivers people are also, I'm amazed. They're not asking questions. Who did born? Who was the astonis that actually took the laws into their hands and burnt the initial assembly before it was demolished? Now, this crisis is, you can imagine how much this crisis has cost Rivers State. If they're now going to commit a humongous amount of 20 billion to reconstructing the Rivers State House of Assembly, Rivers people should ask questions. There should have been a judicial commission of inquiry, which of course, if the governor doesn't set up, will beg for questions in future. Because it is the taxpayers' money they are using to rebuild this edifice that was bombed and eventually that was brought down. And I think people should remember that there is a future. You might not be questioned today, but you'll definitely leave office someday. And so if we did not set up a judicial panel of inquiry to unravel what exactly happened to the Rivers State House of Assembly. It therefore goes that those who are pointing fingers at him might not be wrong. So he has to also prove them wrong by trying to find out those who have cost the taxpayers a whooping 19 or 20 billion, so to say, to the state or reconstruction of this River State House of Assembly. I think this crisis has caused the state so much pain. Absolutely. And it can be nipped in the bud.
I mean,
and a lot of personal interest has come to play, which I think should be set aside at this material point in time.
I must say, Sir Okolugbo, I must say that a lot has happened since our last conversation on this matter. But do you think the political party could have built, some form of fortifications to prevent this crisis from getting to this state? In the form of rules or internal mechanisms at resolving crises of this nature. And I'm asking because I remember both men attended the PDP National Caucus meeting in April, but nothing like reconciliation was put on the table. But as a former member of the PDP, talk to us, how does the PDP resolve issues such as this?
You know, it's a lot of people have said the PDP has become a shadow of itself because they seem to live in self-denial. There's so much interest in the PDP as we speak. The last time I checked, former Governor Wike and Minister Wike is still a member of PDP. Governor Fubara is a member of PDP. But the PDP cannot come into this matter because their interest. The National Working Committee is divided. A lot of them are more on the side of Wike than on Fubara. And also, Fubara himself has not played the politics. Because why do I say this? You must play the politics as the governor to be able to warm yourself to the party and even try to coach the members of the assembly that are fighting you at this material point in time. That's what politics is all about. Yeah. So why the PDP does not try to come in, and the president did come in, well, they accuse the president of becoming a meddlesome interloper. Now they're seeing that what the president did was the benefit of hindsight. Yes, there's anger that Governor Wike is overbearing. Governor Wike has anger issues. Governor Wike does not tolerate dissent. But it's the same Governor Wike that also brought about Fubara, so not for them to forget. So if it is the same Governor Wike that brought about Fubara should not also lose sight of the fact that without Wike, he has acknowledged this over and over again, he will not be the governor of the state. I think the PDP should actually be the ones to ask them to do a soul searching because Damakun has not spoken as regards this crisis. The publicity secretary issues press statements every now and then. But like somebody said, those press statements sound very empty because it sounds as if those press statements are just issued to fulfill all righteousness. So I don't think looking up to the party at this point in time can help issues. It is the same president that will eventually settle these issues between the minister and the governor. But if the advocate recognizes a newly left faction, the governor would have actually put himself in serious trouble. That means the budget that he has been operating, they will have so many grounds of impeachment at this material point in time. Because those that said they did not have any grounds of impeachment before now felt that it was too early in the day to imagine what the governor would have done that would amount to gross misconduct or high crimes as envisaged by the Constitution. But if the advocate rules in favor of Amewule, who has not now spoken since this court ruling, to say, no, I'm not a member of PDP, I'm a member of APC. So it begs the question, where do we go from here?
But does it also get more interesting that the River State chapter of the APC has taken its side? In a unanimous decision, we heard former Senator Magnus Abe saying that members and leaders of the party in River State have pitched their tent, but here's some Wike. Are you in any way surprised?
Well, Magnus Abe has been wanting to be governor of the state, and don't forget that he contested under SDP, even though while still supporting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But let's not deny the fact that without Wike's support, Tinubu will never have won River State. River State is the only state in the entire 17 southern states, not 17 southern states, south and southeast states, that Tinubu won. And so Magnus Abe at this material point in time, if you have gone back to the APC and Governor Wike is the minister who is performing, whether you like it or not. Wike's worst enemy would not deny the fact that he has performed so much for a minister who has stayed 9 months in office. You can't take that away from him. it's only realistic that Governor Abe will want to align with Wike.
So are you saying that
years of the president?
So Okolugbo, are you saying this is the Rivers APC showing some sign of appreciation to Nyesom Wike by pitching?
Of course, they're showing appreciation to Nyesom Wike because there are two things you must look at. The Rivers APC, first of all, won the presidential election because of Nyesom Wike. And a lot of fights he's having now, a lot of bickerings he's having from those who were his former allies was because of the fact that he worked for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And then again, as a minister, he has not failed to deliver. And if you look at it from those two perspectives, Rivers APC has every reason to be appreciative of former Governor Wike.
But I'm also very worried about the tribal sentiments some individuals are pushing, because if you have prominent people like former militant leader Chief Victor Ben, also known as Boy Love, who has called on the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, to shun sycophants and pursue reconciliation with Minister Nyesom Wike. On the other hand, you hear Minister Wike admitting he made a mistake and would correct that wrong in due time. Why has it been so hard for these prominent figures, religious leaders, traditional leaders, to wade in, especially as this crisis gradually gathers tribal sentiments? I mean, you have some people talking about Ijaw versus Ekwere.
Well, Governor Fubara himself has said that Rivers State does not have elders, that the elders are cheap, that they can be bought with little naira. He said that in a public statement, which I don't think was proper because there are also Rivers elders who are defending him and defending and trying to protect him in his office. So that sweeping statement of saying that Rivers State does not have elders, I think was and he did not even retract it, I don't think was proper. Yes, the truth is, like the statement you said, which I didn't even read, that the former militant said that you should forget the psychopaths. The governor must do a soul searching at this point in time because most of those who are also with him now, those who want to bring Wike down, they don't really love him. Like I heard former Governor Mechi said that it's not like Fubara is popular. He says because the state is tired of Wike, that's what Governor Mechi said. But I don't think it's about being tired of Wike. It's about the fact that everybody has their interest. And for those who have a spot to settle with Wike, the best thing to do now is to align with Governor Fubara and show that you are sympathetic to his cause. So Fubara should be able to sift the wheat from the chaff. He must ask himself some certain questions. If I wasn't governor, would all these people be around me today? Because that's the truth. Maybe tomorrow when I'm no more governor, they will also disappear. And those who are today fighting Wike are those who could not look Wike in the face a couple of months ago when he was governor. I have believed in one thing, even when I was in the PDP, is that integrity matters a lot. When somebody helps you to office, always show appreciation to that person, no matter what it is. Like when Governor Gwan made me a commissioner, I didn't even know I was going to be made a commissioner. I still have that respect and regard for him. And I don't think there was any reason for me, even if I have to criticize Governor Gwan, I must do that in private and not in public. There are certain parameters that politicians, for some politicians, what goes for them is just permanent interest. They don't, change. The only thing that is constant is change. They think of just their stomach infrastructure. They throw caution to the wind. Integrity is put at the back burner. I think that is the hallmark and the problems that most of the people, sorry to say I'm not from Rivers State, the Rivers State are exhibiting at this material point in time. That is the ones that are being, not the majority of the Rivers people, but those who are fanning the embers of discord and festering on it and wishing that it will not end.
You may have a point, Sir Okolugbo, but I mean, when you heard that the state government, Rivers State government, has disclosed plans to set up a judicial panel of inquiry to investigate how the affairs of governance were conducted in the states before Governor Fubara assumed office, how did you react to that?
That sounded more like he was doing it because of the crisis. But if you want to set up a judicial commission of inquiry, there's nothing wrong with it because it is expected that government is a continuum, just like what is happening in Kaduna. If you have found out that there are infractions, you should bring it to the public layer, especially when you have the EFCC and the ICPC at this material point in time.
But if you're talking about Kaduna, Sir Okolugbo, those men are from different parties. This is a godfather and a godson.
It's interesting because, you see, when I keep telling people, the advice I keep to governors is that man that comes to tell you that you are not doing well while you have power. It's the man you should hand over power to or support in terms of handing over power to. It's only a friend that can tell you that your mouth is smelling. But most of these governors make the mistake of thinking that those who come to kneel down before them, prostrate before them, and sing their praises are the ones that can, I'm not using anybody as an example here, are the ones that can know too and they can hand over power to. But it has always boomerang because integrity is for those who can speak truth to power, no matter whose horse is God. So it's like a way of, so for some it works out, for some it doesn't work out. I think what is also happening in Kaduna is the true case of the godfather and the godson, having their crisis, their fair share of the crisis. And so by the time El-Rufai has been put on the spot, he will have no choice but to go defend himself because these are very weighty accusations that have been made against him. And he also justifies what people like Obasani has said before now, that those loans that El-Rufai was taking were loans that he never intended to use or to divert for other purposes. But it hasn't gotten to that stage in Rivers yet.
All right. So, Okolugbo, let's go on a break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. You're watching Politics Tonight. I'll be right back.
Station and all the passengers. Efficient, it's comfortable.
This development will go a long way in reducing congestion and emission.
The trains are a long-term solution to Lagos traffic challenges.
This is where we take the final, decisions on policies, programs of government. I will have to ensure that, the narration of Lagos as a PLC is taken very, very seriously.
This is a major pedestrian bridge linking Oyingo here to Apapa Road over there.
With this overpass, we are providing what we call a permanent solution.
This place is one of the most dangerous areas at the biosecurity environment.
This can go into the news and every crumbs of your neighborhood.
Our goal is to remain as Africa's model megacity, to move our GDP from the 5-6 position to the 3rd position, and we believe it's achievable with all the commitments we have.
Explore the city of Lagos, where dreams are made and possibilities are endless. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. I've been speaking with Sir Ken Okolugbo, a former commissioner in Delta State and is also a political affairs analyst. Tonight, we're discussing River State crisis as the court validates Pro-Wike lawmakers' seat. Sir Okolugbo, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. So quickly, I need to take you up on other national issues, but before then, let's wrap it up on Rivers crisis. What would you say is the option or are the options available going forward? Do you think a political solution is the issue, or you think the Supreme Court has to wade in at this moment?
There are two things. The Appeal Court will have to weigh in first before the Supreme Court weighs in. But I think a political solution will be more expedient because there's so much bad blood. So much bad blood has been created. But no matter the bad blood, people can always think of the interest of the people. There's so much anger, there's so much bitterness, there's so much feeling of betrayal. But if they can actually leave above all that, put all that behind them, and actually think of the people of Rivers State and look for political solutions to this problem, because it will now become a win-win situation, a genuine one, because the one that was signed before the president was as if, oh, they did that, but everybody went back to their tents eventually, especially when they felt the governor did not go back to resubmit the budget, as was agreed. He did not also conduct local government elections, but most of the elders felt that the governor was ambushed in terms of that agreement. Now, what would the president do at this material point in time? If you were in the position of a president that he's been tried to have said he's a meddlesome interloper, But he's the president of the entire country. He can fold his hands. If there's crisis in River State, it could affect the entire country. Or he could be forced to declare a state of emergency in River State. So moving forward, like I said, either the appeal court will have to rein in on this, the chief judge has to encourage the appeal court to quickly determine whatever, which of the cases are before them, or the political situation will have to come in as fast as possible.
But why do you think a political situation will work this time? I mean, it's failed before. Why do you think it would work this time?
There's nothing impossible. There's nothing impossible. It's all about anger. If the minister calms down, you know, and if the governor stops listening to those who are really finding the embers of discord around him, it can work. I tell you, it can actually work. They can both still embrace each other. If there is genuine reconciliation between both of them, they are the dramatis personae, so to say. You know, the former minister has the ears of the president, so he should also consider that if he also wants the president to succeed. The governor has also said he supports the president, even though the APC in Rivers said that's a smoke screen. He's only saying that because of the crisis at hand. But whatever it is, Rivers people have to move on. And I think the governor too is working in the midst of this crisis from the things we can see, because it has fallen short of what he could have done if this crisis were not at hand. We must also call a spade a spade.
All right. I mean, this is a new development. We'll see what happens in the next few days. So let me take you up on other national issues. Organized labor says it won't accept any 62,000 naira or 100,000 naira starvation wage as the new minimum wage for Nigerian workers. And as we speak, organized labor says it is now left for President Bola Tinubu and the National Assembly to determine its next line of action. How do we find a balance here?
You know, the problem here is that it's a tripartite thing. You have the organized labor, you have the private sector, then you have the federal government, the state government, and the local government. Now, I'm sure left to the federal government, they could have been able to up their game to 100,000, which would make sense in the real sense of it, what we are facing in Nigeria. But if the federal government says 100,000, and the states say they cannot pay, the private sector say they cannot pay, the local government say they cannot pay, how do you implement it? So you must look at the position of the federal government. They are turning between the devil and the blue sea. Now, those state government says they are paying 70,000. Well, I see no reason why some states cannot pay 100,000. States like Rivers State, states like my state Delta, like Bayelsa. There are certain states that have gotten their revenue increased by way of the removal of a false subsidy. But if those states say they can pay, and a state like Zamfara and Yobe say they cannot pay, how do you now move forward? 62,000 naira, we all know, cannot do anything. I just filled my tank today because 60,000 naira used to fill my tank, my tank. And I was asking myself, this is exactly the minimum wage we are talking about. People do not even have light, even though we are talking of band A, band B, band C, band D. They must still use like better pass my neighbor generator. How much fuel will you buy to put in there so that you can at least charge maybe your phone, so that at least you can communicate with the outside world? How much is Gary in the market? How much is beans? How much is rice? Let's be realistic. So it shows that the governors must think outside the box. They must not go camp in hand to Abuja to collect oil money all the time and only depend on it. They must start depending on their IGR. Because if these governors had a healthy IGR, they should be able to pay 100,000. Now, I don't see the labor agreeing to 62,000, and we all know what happened with the 2-day warning strike, which was tantamount to, some call it treason. But we saw how the economic situation of the country was grinded to a halt. So it's a very difficult situation for the federal government, because if the states say they cannot pay and the private sector say they cannot pay, the government cannot move beyond 62,000 naira.
All right. So, Okolugbo, but then, as we continue to navigate through this issue, industry experts and economists have said that if we have to pay this figure, especially because the economy is on a tough road to recovery, and the new minimum wage agitation and return of fuel subsidy will further complicate the process and further complicate the economic status of this country. Do you think we should damn the consequences and pull the bull by the horns?
Oh, well, certainly, inflation is at 3.69%. That's the highest we have had in almost 3 decades. And don't forget that interest rate has been increased to 26.25%. And so even if you have to go and borrow now, that's what you pay, because people, the CBN is looking at attracting more foreign investment, maybe in terms of those who purchase our treasury bills and driving the currency to, that is the naira to a dollar, to much below 1,500, 1,480 in the parallel market that it is stabilized now. So the actual truth of it is that if you have to replace the economy, for example, which has one other situation this government has found itself, the fact that they have not been able to even pay the 25,000 naira that was promised to 15 million Nigerians because of the problems with the humanitarian ministry. If they had done that for 6 months, maybe the economy would have been deflated. And maybe by the time they do that, there'll be not so much pressure on the civil servants who would have one person or the other benefiting from this 25,000 naira largesse that would have come from the federal government to those who are seen as vulnerable. But in the economic indices, you cannot survive a huge wage increase if there is no backup. The inflationary trend might skyrocket to more than 40%, and you know what that means for the country. And especially the exchange rate goes beyond 1,500 in the parallel market. We're already feeling the heat. You know, I actually feel for the federal government, but President Tinubu has said we should put him in the yaks for the job.
All right, Sir Okolugbo, but let me ask you this question. I think I'm asking you because I don't think I've gotten a convincing response from anyone. Should dialogue have an expiry date when it comes to labor and government?
Should dialogue have an expiry date?
Absolutely, when it comes to labor and government. When it comes
it shouldn't have an expiry date. The dialogue should always be, you must always put dialogue in the front burner, especially when you know what the repercussions of strike would mean. So dialogue should always be at the front burner. Labour must bear with the federal government at this material point in time. Especially when they look at the indices of the inflow. Don't forget too that we need to increase production. Exploration also has to increase so that we can increase our OPEC quota and not be stagnant, so that we can increase our earnings. Because from the look of things, the mono economy is going to continue for a long time. Even the mining, which is one of the other ways we have said we are going to diversify the economy, has not brought in as much as we have expected it should bring. In agriculture, we all know the farmer headers crisis has affected our production. And so agriculture is not having the same output as we have envisaged or we have gotten in the past. So we don't actually have food security for up to 25 million Nigerians, which should be the basic for about a population of 200 million. So dialogue should always be in the front burner, you ask me.
All right, so you've said this looks like a very difficult situation for the federal government. And I think I agree with you because the president at the moment is doing everything to make sure that he rights the wrong cement on ground, because economists have said truly the president inherited a battered economy, is doing what he can to stabilize the economy. But when Nigerian workers see the lavish lifestyle of our politicians, of our lawmakers, of public servants, I mean, you hear about huge amounts of money to renovate their assembly complex. We just talked about River State Governor trying to reconstruct an assembly complex he demolished for 19.5 billion naira. You hear about 200 million naira budgeted for borehole. You see a director of an agency move around with a 5-car convoy. How does government justify this high cost of governance?
That's why Nigerians are saying that they must cut the cost of governance if they actually want to set examples. And I agree, cost of governance has to be cut, especially recurrent. Recurrent expenditure is quite on the high side. We find some people eating buffet for 45,000 naira. And 45,000 naira is just 15,000 short of the 60,000 naira offering for somebody to put in his pocket for a month. We must have that. We must have a rethink. We must think of the fact that we should all be our brother's keeper. And so there must be an example given. But also, you should also say that the ostentational lifestyle of some of our politicians has had its negative effects. And if, like what the EFCC is doing right now, is bringing in on those who before now they thought were not, they thought were those that could not have been touched. continues with the way they are going, a lot of people have a routine, especially for those who are mismanaging the economy at this material point in time.
All right. So another reason for the strike was a reversal of an increased electricity tariff. Let me ask you, do you see this as justified and achievable? I mean, especially when you hear Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, say investors are now showing interest in the electricity sector because the federal government increased electricity tariff.
But the bank thing is not working. I am supposed to be on band A. I don't get 20 hours of light. Sometimes I get less than 16 hours of light. Sometimes I don't even get up to 10 hours of light. So the bank thing has to be looked into, because if they say you're on band A, there's a disparity. Of course, if you have 20 hours, if I have 20 hours of light, I don't have to buy diesel at 1,500 naira, or sorry, 1,100. And I'm excited, because I run a business that sometimes consumes up to 1,000 liters a week. Or more than 1,000 liters a week. So if you decide you pay for band A, I would be happy, because it will cut costs. But how many people can actually afford that band A? So the Minister of Power has to go back to the drawing board, in my opinion. I don't think this band A, band B, band C, band D thing can work, because there is no check and balance to be able to ensure that those who are paying band A tariffs are actually getting it. And even those who are not even on band C do not have light at all. The power sector still has to do a lot to improve on the megawatts that they are actually distributing to the transmission company of Nigeria to the discos.
All right, let's move away from that. Let's talk about local government autonomy and the suits instituted by the federal government against state governors. I mean, just recently, Rivers Council chairperson accused Governor Fubara of withholding money meant for local councils, and he's not the only state governor doing that. In whose interest do state governors hold local government funds?
It's very obvious that the Constitution, which envisaged the local government to be a third tier of government, that most of the governors are not respecting it. So what the federal government has done is a welcome development. I think this suit should be expedited by the Supreme Court and accelerated. I'm happy they gave the governors just 7 days for them to enter their defense. And judgment should be swift. Let money go directly to the local government and not through these jack accounts. Most of these jack accounts are assaulted and abused by the state governors. And the local government, don't forget, they created because they wanted government to become nearer to the people. But when you don't feel that impact, because if the local governments are doing their work, there won't be so much pressure on the federal government. There won't also be so much pressure on the state governments. Yes, people can ask for check and balances. Let the councillors be check and balances. And eventually the House of Assembly can actually also look into what has happened in local government, but without denying them or robbing them of their autonomy, in my own opinion.
But there's also the matter of jurisdiction. But again, what are the legal or constitutional options available to ensure governors change their stranglehold on local government?
That is exactly what the federal government has done. There's original, the Supreme Court has the jurisdiction to entertain matters between the states and the federal government. And the federal government has done the right thing by going to the Supreme Court. So we're not going to go through the court of first instance, which should have been the High Court, to the Appeal Court, and to the Supreme Court. In this case, the Supreme Court is acting as the court of first instance. And so the Supreme Court should decide on this matter swiftly, so that we can put a rest to this. Because Buhari tried to do it, but it was resisted by the governors. Even Obasanjo tried. A lot of the presidents that tried has always been resisted by the governors.
Well, how convinced are you that this will work? Because I remember former President Muhammadu Buhari signed an executive order on this matter, but he could not achieve much. Because
the executive order didn't have the force of the law, didn't have the backing of the law. Don't forget, he also did that with the currency thing that the likes of El Rufai has put into court and he won. So what the president is doing now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the right thing. He has gone to the Supreme Court to interpret. And once the Supreme Court gives that judgment, the Attorney General will enforce it. They will pay the money directly to the local governments and not to the jack accounts of the state.
All right. So finally, before I let you go, what do you think is the way forward to ensure effective local government administration in Nigeria?
That is when we allow local government elections to be held properly. If you are APC, all the APC local governments are won by, all the chairmanship positions are won by APC. If you are PDP, all the chairmanship positions are won by PDP. And so most of the state electoral commission are just an appendage for the governors. So if they allow democracy to thrive and they actually allow local government chairmen and councillors to win where they are popular, people will hold them to account to ensure that they bring the dividends of democracy, which is the whole idea of the local government system, bringing the government nearer to the people. I think that is the most surest way for us to have the local governments perform.
But do you think it would be ideal to have INEC take charge of local government elections?
Well, we are trying to say that we are talking of restructuring. By the time we say INEC should also take charge, INEC I think might be overburdened. But in a situation whereby there is no alternative, then we'll have to resort to INEC because that seems to be the only way that elections are done, and there seems to be a semblance of independence of the Electoral Commission.
All right. Thank you so much for your perspective tonight. I've been speaking with Sir Ken Okolugbo, a former commissioner in Delta State and political affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your insight on all of our discussions tonight. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
It's always my pleasure.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of